All right. The man, the myth, the legend, Chris Marler. Saturday. Oh, wait. Not.
Fuck off.
Fourth and Wrongs, the podcast. What's your other. I don't even know what to tell. Sometimes I tell people to follow you. And then every time I check, it's like the account has been deleted or suspended, and then you've restarted it. So what is the current Chris Marler social media?
Yeah, what a run. What a generational run of ineptitude by me over the last year and a half. It's Vern Dumquist on Twitter, which I feel like is fair at this point because there's only so many Vern Funquists I could have made. Mm-hmm. I do want to point out the last time I lost the Twitter account wasn't anything bad that happened. It was just I lost my password for the account that I had made. So that was the only reason why. It wasn't anything bad this time. It wasn't like a Kirby Smart sex tape joke or anything bad. That was the first one. But yeah, Vern Dumquist. We still have the Fourth and Wrong podcast. We just did a new show yesterday. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, we put out hosting Locked On Gamecocks this season as well. And then running social media and covering the SEC for LosingTheSports.net and ESPN in Baton Rouge.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because I've made the joke to you. You got 3 SEC teams now,
yeah.
Bama, LSU, and South Carolina, and none of them can make the college football playoff. I don't know what that life is like.
How many? Yeah. How many more teams do I have to get to be happy in January? Like, because here's the thing too. I was like, all right, well, football season's over. That kind of sucks. We're going to talk about basketball, talk about the portal, all kind of stuff. And then I tuned into the first South Carolina basketball game on Saturday, and it was like, at one point, it was 24-4 in men's basketball, and I was like, "Well, it's like an upward church league shit. Like it was fucking terrible." So it'll be different for sure.
So those 3, let's stick with those 3 teams for a second: South Carolina, Bama, and LSU. Which program do you feel most confident about going into 2025?
That's tough. Because it's interesting. Is that your dog or my dog?
Yeah, it's my dog. Sorry.
Okay, so. I love how South Carolina ended the season. I'm nervous to see how it goes moving forward just because I love that they got Sellers back. They've done a tremendous job of – and I'm sure, Mike, you know this just as well as I do. I'm sure other teams were doing this. I don't know if any teams were as vocal and upfront about what they were doing as South Carolina was, which is they went out and made sure at the start of November they were working on restructuring a contract and NIL deal to make sure Dylan Stewart stayed home. They had people from inside the program were telling me about this afterwards. The Lenore Sellers news came on Christmas Eve. They had been working on that since the first bye week. And like you may hate it and seeing all these these posts. It's like, well, so and so's coming back next year. They signed a deal, and because it's NFL light. But that's just where the sport is right now, and I think it says a lot about where Beamer was and like. The planning ahead and making sure they were out front of, hey, well, we had a season to prepare for. We had all this kind of stuff, like having to manage it. It's just one more thing head coach have to do. I thought that was really, really impressive. I think they've done a good job in the portal. They've kept a lot of guys in-house and out of the portal. But losing Kyle Kennard's going to be tough. Losing Rocket Sanders is going to be tough. So that part is concerning for me. The Bama thing, I think I was very stubborn about Jalen Milroe for a long time. Up until his second and third turnover in the first quarter against Michigan. That was – going into a season where you were the returning Heisman vote getter in the country and you have 11 turnovers in the first 10 games, you have 10 in the last 3. It was a Kirk Cousins level fall off. So I think that the quarterback situation should improve. The thing that concerns me about Bama is I don't think the seat's hot for DeBoer. I know you do. I don't think it's that hot. He's going to have to succeed, but I think that he's in a weird spot because it's like Keelan Russell is the guy coming in, right? Like, is this going to be like a Bryce Young, Mac Jones situation with much less talent? Because I don't think Ty Simpson's Mac Jones, and I don't think Keelan Russell is Bryce Young. So I don't like. Does he sit for a year, or do you put your potential job security in the hands of an 18-year-old kid at quarterback because he's the number 3 overall player in the country? I say all of that to say that the team I'm probably most confident in is LSU because LSU. I like the way the schedule sets up. I know they got to play at Clemson. I know they've struggled in opening games this year. They get South Carolina at home. They get Bama on the road, which is better for them than at home because just historically speaking, Bama's lost there 6 times since the Eisenhower administration. That's just a factual information. I really think that with Nussmeier coming back, if the offensive line can just be average, they are going to be very, very dangerous. And the whole Bryce Underwood thing, man, that $12.5 million that Michigan paid for them. It sucks that you didn't land them, but it freed up several millions of dollars to make sure that you could go out and get all these guys in the portal.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are going to be three of the most interesting teams in the country next year. But let's stick with DeBoer and Jalen Milroe. Based on just what I'm seeing, you would have more engagement than with Alabama fans than I do. But it seems like they're just, it was all Jalen Milroe. Guy's a joke. You know, he can't play. We're going to upgrade. And it reminds me a little bit. I know they're completely different players, but it reminds me of Tennessee fans throwing Joe Milton under the bus. And I'm not saying Joe Milton was like amazing or anything, but it didn't get much better with Nico. So, I mean, to me, that's on Kalen DeBoer, who came in here with this incredible record, and he should have adapted better, or he should have done, I don't know what he could have done better. I'm not getting paid $10 million to figure it out. But, yeah, not get embarrassed by Oklahoma. But I don't know. That's a big reason why I think DeBoer could be in over his head just a tad. And I have it on good authority that the higher people at Alabama, and I'm not talking Greg Byrne, I'm talking the money people, they hate DeBoer. So, I mean, take that for what it is. But, you know, when Nick Saban got there, we all know, you know, this is well documented. He got all those money people in line immediately and said, it's going to be my way, or I'm not coming there. And so they all got in line. And when he left, some of those people are starting to bubble back up. So that's a big reason why I think DeBoer is on one of the hottest seats in the SEC next year.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like I don't necessarily think it, because it would be, in my opinion, it would have to be a colossal failure, not just a 9-3 season. It has to be a colossal failure to say, hey, you only got 2 years. Like, the part of me that's trying to be optimistic about it is, how much of this season was like him not just like sticking to his guns of who he is as a coach and trying, like, because like, listen, the Milroe thing is it's one thing. Like, I think that he was your best option at quarterback, but you saw throughout the season, man, it was like, dude, the Tennessee game, there's never been a recipe for success for Alabama with Jalen Milroe as a quarterback to drop back 49 times in a game. I mean, like, he had 45 attempts. He had 27 in the first half. Before that, he had 2 games in his whole career where he had more than 27 attempts. He did that in the first half against Tennessee. Like, I don't know, Tennessee has a good run game and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, or a good run defense, but it just, there were things like that. And then you saw later in the year where it's like, and I'm not talking about LSU, I'm talking about like Oklahoma and other games where they stuck way too much to him in the run game. And I don't know what happened after the first half of Georgia. I don't know what could have happened. Like the Vandy game, you got flat out beat. That wasn't a kick six situation. That wasn't a bunch of like fluky shit. That was, you lined up, they had a plan to beat you, and they held the ball for 42 minutes and ran it down your fucking throat. Like, that's what they did. Oklahoma was like, what are you doing? I think the scariest thing for Bama fans is, I said in July they were going to lose to Tennessee and they were going to go 9-3, but I thought it was going to be Tennessee, Georgia, and maybe LSU. Mm-hmm. Like, every single time this team had everything in front of them. Everything in front of them. They didn't just lose, Mike. I mean, they lost horribly. That Tennessee game, you had 3 turnovers in the first half. You, as a Tennessee guy, have to be going to halftime thinking, like, God, like, how the hell is it 7-0? Like, we've had 3 turnovers, and they've done nothing with it. Milroe throws another pick in the end zone. I think the thing for me with DeBoer is he's got to show that, like, the offense we saw at Washington, like, the creative stuff we saw at Washington, like, because it's finally a situation where you can look at it and say, all right, listen, Michael Penix is clearly different than Jalen Milroe. Those are different quarterbacks. They were running in a different system. But I don't want to see a quarterback that's going to like I don't want to see a quarterback that's going to go out there and the entire game plan, it almost feels like from series to series at times they had no idea what they're doing. Do you remember? You were at one point in, I think it was the Tennessee game, until the second half they ran the ball for 6 straight plays. But up until that point, for over 2 games, they didn't run back-to-back plays to a running back. Like that. What are you doing? Stop overthinking it. So I don't know if it's getting people in place that are more in line, like you said. But I do think that if next season doesn't go well, they're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's odd times in Alabama where you got the AD pining for money, which, you know, that's his job, but it's kind of funny to see that and announcing key freshmen returning. I mean, that's That's just the state of college football right now. But it is funny
Yeah.
to see for someone like me who's been tormented by Alabama for 20 plus years. But
Hold on, real quick.
Uh-huh.
Can I ask you this?
Mhm.
You brought the freshman thing. Is the worst trend in college football right now the people saying, "I'm declaring for the NFL draft," and you're like, "Hold on, you've been in college for 6 fucking years. Like, do you know you don't have eligibility left? Like, why are you making a graphic? I love graphics. I love Canva. Do we need that graphic?
Everybody needs a graphic.
Everybody needs a graphic. It's the new trophy."
Yeah, it really. Well, I blame you partly responsible for your outstanding graphics.
I appreciate that, Carlona.
How about LSU though? Because I think Brian Kelly's going to go to his grave saying,
Really?
We had Jaden Daniels and we lost 3 games.
It's tough, man. That's tough to look back at. Dude, they had Jaden Daniels and 2 first-round draft picks at receiver. Like, it was even worse. And then what's crazy too is the defense this year was improved, but like the bar was set. I mean, just so low. Like, I mean, like the bar was set so low, and so it improved. But they ranked 10th or worse in the SEC in every major statistical category of defense, whether it's like scoring, run defense, pass defense. All like the secondary was terrible. They could not figure out how to stop a running quarterback. They couldn't do it for 2 straight weeks. And in those games, they had a week off in between, and they still couldn't figure it out, which is just insane to me. But I do think with Brian Kelly, I think he's a really good coach. I think that he's also having a hard time where you're like again, what concerns me is like this is the best offensive line that will ever come through LSU. Like gave up the fewest sacks in the conference. You get 2 guys that are potential first rounders at both tackle positions. You have to replace 4 out of the 5 guys on that offensive line. The offensive line is not why Garrett Nussmeier threw or had 3 turnovers against A&M. That's a huge concern for me. I have to think that he will continue to get better. And then the other part too, man, and this is something I feel like no one talked about was them losing Jaden Daniels is one thing. Them losing 2 first-round draft picks is another. Them losing Mike Denbrock to Notre Dame was a really big deal. And as you've seen, it's really hard, unless your name is Nick Saban, apparently, it's really hard to replace an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator and then just exist, especially now in the 16-team league.
Yeah. Do you have any fear in your heart of old Hugh Freeze and what he's building on the plains, or will he just screw it up like he usually does?
I have so much fear in my heart about Hugh Freeze. I mean, he is because like he's not good enough to win a championship. Like he's just not. But he's also good enough to be like, hey, Bo Wallace, our favorite Twitter follow now, is a back-to-back 3,000-yard passer, and so that is something. Like I thought you would see so much more improvement this year than last year because, or I'm sorry, this year as opposed to year one because the influx of talent they brought in at receiver was unbelievable, and it seemed very odd that it took to the end of the season for them to the defense wasn't even bad. Like the defense wasn't bad, but the thing I couldn't understand about Hugh Freeze was this. Hugh Freeze, they go to Kentucky, and he gives the ball 24 times to Jarquez Hunter, and he goes for 270 yards. In the 2 times that Jarquez Hunter ever got over 20 carries in his career, he had an average of 230 yards. You had one of the best running backs in the country, or in the conference at least. In your backfield, you're like, no, Peyton Thorne, the guy that I'm also going to vocally and verbally abuse in every press conference imaginable. That's the guy I want everything in his hands. And you're like, you hate him. Like, why do you keep doing this? It's so weird. So I think that there has to be an improvement from the offense. I'll tell you the most optimistic and hedge my bet emotionally take on Auburn, right? And this has nothing to do with me dating someone that went there or any shit like that, because Facebook, Twitter and stuff is just like, you're only nice Auburn because of that. It's more of an emotional hedge than anything. Jackson Arnold, them paying $1.2 million for Jackson Arnold, I thought was hilarious. If you're being objective and optimistic about it, Jackson Arnold's a kid that came in at Oklahoma. They clearly, Brent Venables, whether it's smart or stupid or something in between, they clearly thought he was something if they're willing to let Dylan Gabriel go, which I think was stupid, but still. He came in and had one of the worst offensive lines in the country. They gave up like 46 sacks, something like that. That's almost double anything else they gave up in the Big 12 in the last 9 years. Like they have never been over 33 sacks in a season. They gave up 46. Like their first year in the SEC was awful. He also lost his top 5 wide receivers. Not like a J-Mo and Mechie are out for the national title game. I'm talking about the entire. You have like future plumbers and fucking Aflac employees that were playing receiver for Jackson Arnold. Like he is going to the upgrade he's going to have around him at receiver is one thing. The offensive line has to be better, but that's a consensus top 10 overall recruit. Like those don't always miss. And I would think that like as long as Hugh doesn't screw it up, like you said, the talent's there. He just has to get out of his own way, man. I don't know what he was doing with Peyton Thorne.
Yeah, and remember, Venables brought Jackson Arnold to SEC Media Days as a true sophomore. I know it was Oklahoma's first media day, but that's basically unheard of in this conference. So
yeah,
they had
a weird mouth too.
Yeah, they had a ton of confidence in that guy. But for what that's worth, how about Texas? Do you take any pride in Texas being the only SEC team left, or is it awful for the league that they've come in here and seemingly dominated, and they're kind of carrying the flag for the conference now?
So I think two things can be true at the same time, man. I think it's like, there's just no way to look at this at any SEC fan, and this is not sour grapes. It's just, I think, objectively true. The gift that they were given with that schedule was such a joke, man. Like in comparison to Oklahoma, and I don't think Sankey is necessarily trying to prop up Texas. I don't think he was also not trying to prop up Texas. Like it's like, you know what I mean? Like the cakewalk that they got, and then they get it again next year.
Yeah.
In the NIL era, I've said this repeatedly. You're going to have teams like when they first brought it up. I think the 4 teams I pointed out most that were going to be hungriest of this was Texas, Miami, and Tennessee, because you have 4 fan bases and booster like alumni pools that are starved for winning, and they're over the shit they've seen for the last 10, 20 years. I mean, dude, keep in mind, over the last 14 years coming into this season, Texas had more losing seasons, double the amount of losing seasons than 10-win seasons. And that's done now. Like I think Sark's a great coach. I think he's going to hire the right people. But there's an endless supply of money they will always have to go out and get players in the portal. Now, do I love the fact that they're carrying the flag for the SEC? Absolutely not. No, I don't. I hate it. But they are in the league, and I think what irks me even more is this weird ivory tower, like weird ass, like look down their nose media elites in college football now that are like, and I'll just fucking say it because I've been saying it over and over. Tom Fornelli and Nicole Auerbach. This whole idea that like she put in print that was, even if Texas wins, the SEC should no longer be given the benefit of the doubt. Hey guys, they weren't given the benefit of the doubt this year. That's why SMU made it. Like that, they weren't given the benefit of the doubt. And this idea that like, well, even if Texas wins, it shouldn't count for the SEC. That part is weirder to me than any SEC chant that lower level programs have been chanting, or the riding on coattails that people have accused other teams of Georgia and Bama. That part, the anti-SEC bias is so much more prevalent than the SEC perceived bias ever was.
Mm. Yeah, you could be right about that. All right, how about old Kirby? Over under 1.5 national championships that he'll win the rest of the way.
Over. Hammer it. He'll beat Saban.
You think?
Yeah. I do think that. I mean, he's already got 2, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm saying 1.5 remaining. Because there's a lot of rumors that he may not coach for much longer.
Did you start him?
No.
Did Bobo start him?
I mean, here's the deal, right? Right now, he's the greatest coach ever in Georgia. Well, I mean, he doesn't have the most wins or anything like that, but he'll be, if he walked away, he'd be immortalized, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if he coaches 5 more years and doesn't win one? What's going to happen? They're probably going to fire his ass. and
There's no way.
his reputation will take us. I'm not saying that he'll be like a joke or anything, but reputation takes a hit. He's made so much money. I mean, you can only spend. You can't. I don't even think he can spend the money he's made up to this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will say I think that Kirby is fascinating because one, none of us understand the coaching job that he did because he's at the level now, Mike, where it's like he doesn't get excuses made for him, and he doesn't want them, right? Like Kirby doesn't want those, but he's at the Saban level where it's like no. There are no excuses. I don't care if you had injured receivers or if this happened with your quarterback or if you had a bad call or Hunter Renfrow was on an offensive pass interference. It's a blatant offensive pass interference. They had to change the rule next year, and it was horseshit. They should have had another national title. Whatever. I'm over it. It's totally fine. But but I think the thing with Kirby is, dude, you got to think about this. Notre Dame's a good team. Kirby just went in the toughest schedule we may have seen from a contending team in the last decade. Like they played in the regular season alone, 5 top 20 opponents, 4 of them were away from home. And then they go beat Texas for a second time, and they do it with a backup quarterback. He goes into the playoff. And again, I'm just shocked that we haven't seen this from even Georgia media. Kirby Smart just went and played one of the best teams in the country with a backup quarterback when his dad dying in a fucking hospital. Like, it's insane to me that no one understands the gravity of the situation he must have been going through while having to have his quarterback throw the football to Dylan Bell and Arian Smith. Like, it's just so frustrating to me. Now, the other part with Kirby is I think he's still the best coach in college football. I think that he is the kind of person where it's like that whole motto from Saban where you never waste a failure, right? Like use that as motivation to learn from and get better next season, all that kind of stuff. Kirby's not going to go down swinging. Georgia will throw money around, and they will be in contention next year. Now, the thing with Kirby that I'm interested to see the most is he not a victim, but is he like a perfect example of how important hiring is, Mike? Like Bama fans just thought like, oh, we'll get rid of Sark. Who cares? We're going to bring in Bill O'Brien, or get rid of Pete Golding. We'll bring in so-and-so. And it's like, get rid of Bill O'Brien. We'll bring in Tommy Reese. And you're like, guys, he had a top 10 offense for 2 years in a row. Like, what are you talking about? Kirby had Todd Monken, who is clearly one of the best offensive minds in all of football at any level. He replaced with Mike Bobo, and we saw firsthand that did not translate well. Losing Matt Luke, losing Sam Pittman, and not having the same kind of beef up front like the offensive line. And you talk about all those things and those hires that have to be right on top of the injuries they sustained this year. And Kirby's viewed as like a failure for not winning the national title. It's like he just went through a tougher gauntlet than I've seen in I don't know how long. And he came out with a loss to Ole Miss, a loss at Bama, which I still don't understand, and then the thing at Notre Dame. Like, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be back. And I think that there's no one I would rather put my money on or my girlfriend's money on than Kirby. She makes more than me. So it's like,
Are you a believer in Billy Napier? Do you think he's really turned it around? Speaking of a tough schedule, I mean, it's a damn gauntlet again.
Yeah.
I think it's, I don't know. I mean, it could go either way. I still didn't think he'd be the coach today, but they did a hell of a job to end the season. Will they carry that over into 2025, you think?
Dude, I wish he would have got more accolades. He should have cashed in. Like he should have, even if it was like a raise for like $1 and he got another year extension, like he should have cashed in, because to have to go do this again now is going to be really tough. I love what he has there, and I love the story, because it's like, dude, we have been talking about that schedule since prior to 2023 and how he was just destined to be gone. I'll just say this, man, there's not a fan base that I think owes their coach an apology more than Florida fans. The way that they went after that dude with what he inherited was unbelievable. And him closing out the year the way they did, like they're not better than Miami. I don't think they're in a better situation than Miami, but they do have a chance to like be in a great spot where like UCF is clearly a dud. Now they've got a new coach. Florida State had to hire Gus Malzahn as an OC to figure out figure their shit out. And they were 2-10. Like, you have a chance to put up like a solid fence around your program or vault your program up in that state. And I think that would be important. But I think more than anything, man, like Florida fan expectations, it's just so bizarre to me that like they just really do think that they should be competing for a national championship every year. And they didn't do that with Spurrier. Like, how many national championships they playing with Spurrier? 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
Two is like 95 and 96. Like that, they didn't do it in 97. They fell on their face at LSU. Like they just, I don't get why he's being held to this weird standard for them. And here's the one thing too, I'll say, Mike, just the Florida fans. If you guys want him gone, have at it. Your AD is the worst AD in the entire country, hands down. The hires he's made has been like god awful and garbage. If you want a new coach, have at it. You deserve it, because I've never seen a fan base like you hired the dude that humped the shark. You hired Ron Zook. You've hired who was it? Mullen. Mullen won 21 games in his first 2 years. Got to 3 straight New Year's Six bowls, and you hated him. You hated him. Like, you guys have done a great job at hiring. Feel free to do it again.
All right, final thing for you. Really appreciate your time. Will Alabama ever win in Neyland Stadium again? Because I can't even remember the last time that actually happened.
Well, it was COVID year, and that don't count, brother.
Oh, was it? Yeah, that certainly doesn't count.
No. Here's the thing. Here's all I'm looking for Alabama and Tennessee moving forward. I would just like to see Alabama go into Neyland Stadium and not commit 38 penalties for 190 yards. Because over the past 2 seasons, I think the total is it's 32 for 230. It's insane. Like so I just, it's baby steps. But yeah, I don't know, man. It is. Dude, here's the thing too. They were up 20-7 at halftime of the 2023 game. Like
they should have won it.
Well, I don't know about that.
Bama came right out and punched them in the face, and then they folded.
Yeah, I do think it'll be interesting. Like, if Nico can take another step, it'll be interesting to see where that program goes. I'm excited. Mike Matthews, former Parkview High School alum, is going back. But yeah, I don't know, man. I didn't think they were going to win there this year, but they were handed every opportunity to. Gaston Moore, the kid from Beauty and the Beast, came in to play quarterback for one play, and he's like, "I'll throw it up." They're like, "No, Gaston, hand the ball off." And he's like, "No, watch this. I'm an audible." Like, what?
Well, the fact that you're making excuses lets me know that this is a rivalry once again, which it had not been for about 20 years. You know what?
Yeah.
All right, before you go, tell the audience, how can they follow you? How can they find your work for all these outstanding takes you got here?
You say it with so much contempt. So Vern Dumquist on Twitter, and like I said, Fourth and Wrong podcast, Locked on Gamecocks, and then ESPN 104.5 over there in Baton Rouge, LouisianaSports.net for some writing as well.